Man, thank you for tuning in and welcome back to season 1, episode 118. Man, we're just rolling along. It's the one and only Coach Tony. And of course, this is the Pull Up Podcast Show. Thank you. More importantly, I want to make sure that you like us, share with your friends, and more importantly, subscribe to the show. Tonight, as we celebrate women doing phenomenal things in the sports industry, we're going to celebrate a young lady that has been successful at all levels. She's been able to make things around her better, and she continued to move things forward. But before we give that away, Val, you know what to do. Drop.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. So, I said bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. So, it's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show, where we give you quarter by quarter sports information. Tonight, coming to us from the great state of Louisiana, by way of an HBCU family, although she's a graduate of the University of New Orleans. She is a member, part of the GCAC, and for those that don't know, that's the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. She's been voted by Sports Illustrated as one of the top 100 women in athletics to get to know. So make sure if you're watching and listening tonight, you make sure you get in touch with her. She's an athletic guru. And more importantly, she talked about one particular thing that she wants to make sure she accomplishes along her legacy, and that is dedicating her own legacy to the next generation of Black women in athletics. That is phenomenal. And for those members of the Divine Nine, like myself, she is a member of the one and only Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Let's bring on my friend, my buddy, the one and only Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes. Dr. Barnes, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, at first I thought, man, I cannot possibly find someone as busy as me, but I think you beat me by a long shot.
It's always something, man. That just kind of goes along with the work.
I know, right? It's just you don't know. I've been just praising your entire longevity and things you've been doing, and I'm so happy to have you just take a few minutes of your time to come on our show. You're on one of the fastest growing sports shows right now in the country, and I'm proud of it. I got into this as a joke a few years ago, and all of a sudden it just took off, Dr. Baker Barnes, and now we're 2 years deep and we're rolling, you know?
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. So it's great. We're going to jump in here with 2 feet. I want to let our audience know who you are before we start really getting into the nuts and bolts of the things that you are doing right now. I'm going to take you way back to Menton. I'm going back down to Menton where you were playing ball in 93, 94, 5, and you was putting them on the map down there in back-to-back state championships. You know, talk to us a little bit about coming through high school as an athlete, because you were a dual sport athlete, right? Basketball and track?
Yeah, I did basketball, track, cross country, and I believe cheer is a sport, so I count cheerleading as a sport. I would probably say that cheer was actually my first love. That's the one thing I wanted to do before I was ever introduced to basketball. Cheerleading was what I desired to do. And I had the opportunity to do that from 7th grade all the way through graduating from high school. So, but where I had the opportunity to grow and how I got a scholarship to play college basketball was in the sport of basketball. And we did not win the state championship. So we went to state 3 years in a row. My sophomore year, we finished in the top 4. So we lost in the semifinals. And my junior and senior years, we lost in the championship game.
Oh, wow.
Both by 3 points. Like,
wow.
Oh,
that's one turnover, one missed layup. You know that.
Oh,
right?
Man, let me tell you something. Like, I think about it all the time because I said if there's anything that haunts me, it's that we did not, like we we were supposed to win it like my senior year. They had moved the state championship to Shreveport, Louisiana, which is about 30 miles away from my hometown. So literally the entire city or town or city of Minden was actually at the championship. Like
Wow.
That was supposed to be our win. And so to have it taken away by like a half-court shot.
Oh yeah, and I already know your answer to this. It's kind of like me and my son talk about it all the time. He always say, Dad, man, if you ever could go back in time, what would it be? I know yours would be back to those state championship and find out what could have been differently to win you at least a ring.
Oh man, if we could go back, that would be the one thing. We were supposed to win that championship. So a lot of lessons learned, though. Lessons learned.
Oh yeah, who was that driving force for you just getting into basketball? Because like you say, you had a couple sports you were dealing with. Cheerleading fell off. Basketball became a little more successful. Was it mom, dad, a brother, sister that was a player, or anybody?
No, it was my best friend, Erica Gilbert. Erica's a successful attorney now, lives in Dallas. But Erica was my best buddy in 6th, 7th grade, and she went to try out. So I honestly started to play basketball because I was just looking for friends. I had gone to school in Shreveport because my mother was a teacher there. And so when I was transitioning back to school in my hometown, I only knew people that were at my church. And so she was, well, my previous church, we had been really good friends. Our mothers were both members of Delta Sigma Theta. So we had known each other since like kindergarten. So, her dad happened to be the middle school coach. So I was just like, well, if she's trying out, then I'm going to try.
Right.
Really, no one now my dad was an athlete. So my dad played some basketball. He played baseball. But I mean, I didn't see him play. I mean, like these aren't things that I witnessed. So now he was a basketball official. I saw him officiate games, but I played basketball because daddy was an official. I had a cousin who I remember playing, but still it was like, okay, that's what my cousin does. But when I got to 7th grade and I saw that my friend was going to try out, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go hang out because all the cool kids trying out for basketball. I want to be a cool kid. And that's literally how I got into the game.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like the old story, like, don't bring your friend out to the basketball court because they may be the one get picked up.
Now, it took me 2 years to develop that like that. That didn't happen real fast.
Well, the nice part about it, having a best friend with a dad who was a coach, you kind of got that little extra work in that some of the girls on. Now, did any of your teammates go on to big time schools, big programs out of there?
So I'm trying to think. Erica wound up, we both went to junior college coming right out of high school. I think she went to Hill JUCO. I went to South Plains Junior College, both of them in Texas.
I know South Plains.
I'm trying to think who else. Look, we had some of the underclassmen who were part. I think Tasha Johnson was maybe 94, came out right after us, wound up going to Talladega. Erica's sister, Dee Dee. I can't remember if Dee Dee went to play ball, but I mean, there were some of us who decided to take our talents and, see if we were good enough in college. And Erica transferred from Hill to Talladega. I transferred from South Plains College to University of New Orleans. So we were both able to get 4 years of college ball going, and that was really, really, really cool and great opportunity for us.
And I like how you said, because I'm from Chicago, and we don't get an opportunity to have the one town, but I love it. Like when I go see my relatives in Alabama, because I get that feel that you said, it's one school in the town. Everybody supported. And if you don't get that early enough on a rival game, you ain't going to get a seat. I'm telling you right now.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if it's boys or girls fan, they support everybody, which is completely phenomenal. I want you to know, by the way, that your team, even though they've taken a 20-year hiatus or so, they just now got back to the state tournament. Did you know that?
I don't know if I knew that. I went to, a couple of years ago, me and my teammates all wound up going to some playoff games. Like we kind of showed up in old Minden High School year. I pulled out
the throwback gear, the real stuff.
I pulled out the Letterman jacket.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I love it.
I can still wear my Letterman jacket. Is that not crazy?
No, I I'm at a school right now, and I tried to talk to them, Dr. Baker Barnes, about Letterman jacket. And the kids look at me like, huh? I was like, come on, man. You know how cool it is to walk around with that Letterman jacket. You got the leathers, you got the year on everything. You start patching it up, and that was cool.
Oh, let me tell you, like that was like your way of flossing. Like when it was always fun to make our entrance into a gym when we had our Letterman jackets so they could see them state patches. So you understand who walking into the room. Like you got to respect us when you start. Saying, oh, they went to
athletes. And I ran track and basketball, so on the track you got the little shoes and with the end of it. I'm telling you, and people knew who the athletes were, and they were in their own hallway and doing their own things. And I'm telling you that, as they now call them throwback, but that was the day. And I laugh how things come back because on the internet now, they're selling, I saw Chris Brown with one. I'm like, what? You don't know nothing about no Letterman jacket, boy.
No Letterman jacket?
Come on, man, take that off. So, I mean, the talent has got to be so proud because, again, like you say, you go to the JUCO route, and it's amazing because as I went to the JUCO route and I started to see things, how they change now, you have that opportunity to go. What made you choose UNO?
Okay, this is a very funny story. It'll only make sense to people who in the Divine Nine community.
Right. I got you.
I went on 2 visits. I went to LSU and I went to UNO. Now, when I went to LSU first. I walked around the campus, got a chance to meet Coach Sue Gunter and asking questions. And I said, hey, you got Deltas here? What? She really know what I was talking about.
Right.
But I finally got to somebody who did, and they was like, oh, they suspended. So I was like, oh, man. I go to UNO. I go on the visit. I said, hey, you got any Deltas here? and they're like, sure, see? And there was a display in the studio, like the Deltas had a display.
Right.
And I remember thinking, yep, I'm going to school here.
I'm going to say, hey, that is hilarious because that's what happened to me. I knew that I wanted to be a Catholic because all my boys in the neighborhood, they kind of groom you early. You know how that go. Yes. And a couple of family members, the same thing almost. And I went up on a visit and they got into let's just say an altercation. But it was a party and it was ridiculous. I said, oh, I'm going here. I'm definitely going. I don't know why I chose that. But it's funny how we look at that. I explain to people nowadays when you got kids come in. I love one of your statements that you had in one of your books and rights. It was talking about how people make that decision based on sports and based on the student life. Mm-hmm. And that's how they choose what school. Not to say they're not going for academics. Of course they are, because they know that's the foundation of them coming out. But when they choose that school, they want to know either the football team or the basketball team or what the student life is looking like.
Yeah.
That holds true.
Yeah. And when you think about it, so remember, I'm a product of the 90s. So different world. I grew up 90 to 93. I was watching Different World every week. It was everything about that was what I envisioned for my college life. Like I was like, this particular depiction of college life is what I am expecting when I graduate in 93. I'm going to a college. I'm going to meet my friends. I'm going to pledge a sorority. Hopefully I'll meet my life mate. I'm going to get married, and then I'm going to start my life, right? Because that's kind of what they take you through, right? And in my brain, I loved basketball, but I had to have both. I wanted high quality basketball, which at that time we were in the Sun Belt Conference. Yep. So I was like, okay. And I also want to have a life. And so part of that experience for me that I expected was to be able to pledge Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. My mother was a member. I was a Delta debutante.
Okay.
So there were all these experiences that I had as a young person. I was Little Miss Jabberwock, which is the the local chapter that was in Minden that my mother was a part of. That was one of the fundraisers, and I got to be, Little Miss Jabberwock. So for me personally, it was really important that I had the opportunity to have an undergraduate pledge experience.
Oh, that is awesome. We are talking to the one and only Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes here, checking in. Miss Bella, hello. She says, hello, Miss Dr. Baker Barnes. I love you. How you doing? Wise, the Choice Media, my guy. He said this interview is on fire right now. And Mrs. Tina Michelle, thank you for checking in. We have come to the end of the first quarter like a game. We're going to let Val pay a few bills. We'll be right back on the Pull Up Podcast Show.
Are you a small business owner looking to grow? Introducing the KeySpot mobile app. I'm Cynthia McAllister, owner of the IT company Quality SAP. Since 2016, we have been supporting small businesses and help them promote and share their businesses, services, and events across the country. KeySpot is more than just an app. We are a network providing community. KeySpot, connecting communities and supporting small businesses.
Man, welcome back as we come out on the second quarter of the Pull Up Podcast Show. Welcome to the show, the one and only Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes. Someone said a moment ago, that's right. Different World was great. That is definitely what I want to go to school to, because I think that's what the kids miss. They don't have the shows like we did. Like people talk about the Fresh Prince, but it had a storyline to it. And I know I've seen the new one come out. Like, man, that storyline not even what Will and Carlton was doing back in the day. I wasn't even watching that. But when Hillman came out, and like Facts of Life and Living Single, stuff like that. Yeah, it was like I was right there because I'm like, man, this is me all over again. So it's funny. So now you end up at UNO, you're coming out, and now you're starting to make that move. How did you, when you got out, how did you make that decision that sports is where you wanted to be?
Ooh, man. I felt like that decision was made for me. So I'm working on a book right now, actually. And part of that book is reflecting on specific experiences that I've had over from as early as 5th grade through high school that kind of set me on this path in sport. Okay. I always make jokes and tell people I wanted to be a talk show host. That's what I went to school for. I saw sports as a means to an end. It was a way for my school to be paid for, so my parents didn't have to do that.
I wish you could say that a million times. I just told somebody that last week. Oh, I want to do such and such. I said, well, if your parents had $100,000 or I had $100,000, ask them which $100,000 would they want. I'm sure they would take mine every day.
Yeah. So it was very simple for me. Get a scholarship, and that's going to pay for my education to do what I desire to do, and that's to do TV and be what I would call as Oprah. Like that was the standard. That was when I saw her, I was like, I want to be her, because I felt like her show uplifted people. It wasn't like all of the other shows. We had Ricky Lake, Jerry Springer.
Right, Ricky Lake. Oh my goodness.
It was like the sensationalized TV, right? Like, I guess it was the early introduction to somewhat of a reality TV kind of.
Yep, it was.
Like, I was like, yeah, I don't see myself being aligned with trash. But this, someone who talks about real issues that really illuminates stories of people and elevate, and you get a car and you get a car. Like, so I personally saw myself in her. And we were, of course, brought up again on different worlds. So we know the importance of education, and if I can find somebody else to pay for it, what that does for my family. So as I sit here now, 28 years since I graduated from college, And I am, or 27, something like that. And I am in a career in sports and have worked in sports my entire career. I am somewhat like, how did I get here? Like,
right. Time goes like that. You just don't realize it.
Yes. And so what I'll say is I honestly feel like there was a path for me, almost somewhat like what we see in the Matrix. Neo, there was this path, and that Morpheus had kind of told him, you're the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, how you know I'm the one? I don't even know if I'm the one. But Neo is making decisions. He's curious and he's taking steps to learn more because he's trying to discover, am I really the one? And then there's the pivotal moment where he realizes I am the one. And then he assumes the role, he gains power, and now he's going to deliver the people. Well, I feel like that's what my walk has been like. Like God kind of said, you're the one that's going to do this. And I'm asking him the same question, like, you really want me to do this? Because this ain't what I wanted to do. I was going here. And he's like, well, I want you here. And so I kept saying yes. And then in each role, I'd be introduced to something new. So you remember when the simulation happened and Morpheus is trying to essentially start to open his mind and is to see something different. Well, in each career move I made, that's what was happening. I get into the role and it's like, oh, yes.
Right.
And then another opportunity would show up and I'd be like, okay, I believe I'm supposed to be here. So I'm going to continue to walk. And that is much like it has been for my past. So when I hear people say things like, man, you're a trailblazer, I think about that and it weighs heavy on me because I'm like, well, when I think about trailblazers, I'm thinking about a Harriet Tubman type.
Right. Yeah. You think about somebody that really delivered the people.
Come on, man. And I'm like, okay, and so I'm trying to understand, well, what does that mean for me? And I think where I've gotten in the process is understanding that there are some of us who have been asked to cut away, to make the pathway straight, right? Mm-hmm. Without much, right? You're only, it's you and God or you and your maker, whoever you believe in, whatever your higher power is. It's just you walking this path and you're just clearing the way. Right? Without necessarily knowing, but you believe fully that you should be doing this. That's what I basically feel like my walk has been like. I didn't know it while I was doing it per se, meaning that as I'm making moves, I didn't say, oh, I'm going to be a trailblazer.
Right. It's just kind of like, hey, I'm here. So there's no need to turn around right now.
Yeah. And So I love the Matrix analogy because it was Neo as he made steps was becoming the one.
Yep. And that's
and I believe that in life, for people, we become what we're supposed to be by taking step after step and having faith in the journey that we're taking. Like we discover who we're supposed to be and what our purpose should be and how we can utilize the particular gifts and skill sets to deliver maybe people or to show people a different way that we can be successful.
Oh, I mean, that's, as my man Wise on my show always say, we dropping those fire nuggets. And Danny, what's up, Danny? Danny checking in, by the way. She said that what we talking about on Different World made her want to go to Hampton. and your girl Tina Michelle said she loved me some Kiki. How you doing? She know you way back in the early days. So, I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal, when you say that, because turning that clock, I remember getting in, speaking of that, I remember walking into the gym and I had no idea. All I knew is that I had done so many years of high school and I just wanted to get into college ball.
Yep.
And I remember walking in and Coach Robert Moore gave me that shot coming on the men's side of the house at Fisk. The funny part about it is I'm a PWI guy coming out of Chicago and didn't know anything about the HBCU world outside
Really?
of the Howards and the FAMUs and the Tennessee States and Gramblin's, because my relatives and all that. But when I got here and walked in the fist, and then the funniest interview, he and Dr. Head brought a chair out and said, "All right, work these two guys out." I'm like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's your interview. Work these two guys out." And I worked them out for 30 minutes. And Dr. Baker Barnes, they said it was one of the most hardest workout they had. He said, "I'll call you." I said, "Okay, no problem." Gave him my number. I wasn't 20 minutes away from the campus. They said, "When can you start?" I'm like, "When you need me?" They said, "Tomorrow." I'm like, "Tomorrow." So that's how I got the fist. And it was so great because when we started hitting the road, I had never been in that conference. Now I'm in a situation where, to me, it became personal, the GCAC, because I had family members that were back in the old Negro spiritual days that had went to Tougaloo. Had never seen Tougaloo, so I went there.
Yes.
Of course, coming to see you guys, it was a trifecta, and Suno, you guys, and Xavier. And what touched me more importantly, and this could be a touchy part of the situation here I want you to talk about, but as you were taking over and try to revamp a program at Dillard, you're just coming off of one of the most tragic hurricanes in the country's history, in Hurricane Katrina. Speak to us a little bit about that.
Man, I was talking to a friend earlier today about what I call is the Esther principle. And for those who are, if you're a Bible, scholar, went to youth encampment, or any of those kind of Sunday school,
yes.
There is a story about a young woman named Esther who found favor with the king. There was a really awful guy, and he didn't know of her, like her nationality or her origin. But there was a faction, a group of people who were looking to try to basically take out her people.
Okay.
And so as this guy Haman is over here plotting and trying to manipulate the king to pass legislation that would basically kill off all of her people.
Wow.
If I'm correct, she had a cousin who was aware and was saying, hey, like, you have an obligation to go to the king on our behalf. You can't allow this legislation to pass because all of your people
are
going to perish.
With parents, yeah.
So she had to have courage enough to approach the king, because remember, we're talking about a woman in the Bible days. Women were property.
Exactly.
We didn't necessarily
have step in the back, couldn't talk like they were.
Yeah. And so her figuring out how to approach the king to say, please don't do that, because if you do this, then not only am I going to be subject to this law, meaning that I'm going to die, also all of my people are going to die. And somewhere in the scripture, it says something to the fact of we were created, like she was elevated for a time such as this. And so, I'm 31 years old. I had only been a head coach at the time. And I was initially the assistant coach when Katrina hit with Robin Martin, who at that time was the athletic director and head women's basketball coach. And she was the first African-American female athletic director at Dillard University. And so I actually got laid off on October 31st, 2005. I remember being very upset about it. And just trying to understand what God wanted from me at that time. And so when we circle back around to 2006, the city's trying to rebuild. The university is trying to rebuild. Robin takes another job, another athletic director job in California, and they are looking for someone to replace her. There was a new president. She'd only been on the job for a month.
Wow.
And then a month into her presidency, she now has a natural disaster. Yes. And they're just, they are just trying to figure out how to survive. We weren't on campus, none of those things. And I felt like for me, And for what the call was for me at that time was I was created specifically for a time such as this. Someone young who I didn't have all the answers,
Right.
but I had a lot of courage, a lot of energy, and was willing to get in and just figure it out.
Right.
And so when I think about that particular opportunity, I desired, after being some time in the industry, that athletic director was where I wanted to be. I just didn't anticipate it was going to happen so quickly. So I thought 55, after I had been under some people and but God saw fit for me to have this opportunity now at the age of 31. And in my brain, I was like, so I hope I ain't gonna die early, Lord. Like, I don't really understand this appointment. But what I would say is, because I know who I am and I understand better who I was created to be in the universe, I am a builder. If there's chaos, send it your way. Send it my way. Like, I was created specifically. Like, there are certain people who can lead in that kind of stuff. I am one of those people. There are other people. I'm right with you too. I am one of those people. It don't have to look right. Once I create the vision, it's what I see. So once I have created the vision, whatever people can see physically, I have seen years past that. And so what I am able to do from a leadership standpoint, when I understood that I was a builder, I was like, oh, this is what I do. And every opportunity up to that point was an opportunity to build. My very first head coaching job at 25 was, we want to rebuild the program. Right. I was like, yeah, I'm your girl. But now, again, I'm not really understanding that from a spiritual gift standpoint. I'm just saying, like, well, I don't need everything. Just put me in the game, coach. Right? Put me in the game, coach. Right. Put me in the game, coach. And so they put me in the game, and in every situation, it's going to be better after I'm done. And so then I'm discovering now, as I'm leading this program through a natural disaster, I'm like, it looks easy to other people, and it's not hard for me. It feels like, well, this is just what I do. So when people look at me and say, wow, you're so amazing, in my brain, but like in my brain, I'm thinking like, but isn't this what anybody would do? And then I realized, like, well, no, it's not, because they may not have been created to lead in that way. And so I counted I am grateful to God for that opportunity. I'm grateful that I was put in position for such a time as this to lead, because I was the person that was needed to navigate all of those challenges with a smile. Like, people who know me know I have super enthusiasm. I feel like I got an extra dose of it from God. Like, it's on a whole nother level. I'm going to keep having you pour some of that on me. And Danny says, extremely extraordinary visionary. You know, we are dropping some major fire, some nuggets here from Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes. We're going to go into halftime real quick, pay a few more bills, and we're going to continue in a moment with Coach Tony on the Pull Up Podcast Show.
I've always thought about how my mom has supported me in any creative endeavor. How beautiful was it for your mom to be the superhero in your life and show up in your creative ventures with this book?
People ask her to sign the book more than they ask me to sign the book. Sometimes I step to the side, I take their picture. And, we have to celebrate our mothers. We got to celebrate our beginning. So she comes out with me. Every event, she is there. Even when I tell her she does not need to come, she will show up in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, okay, you coming? Okay. I'm like, all right.
And she got a bottle of wine in her hand.
What in the world? Why are you giving her alcohol?
No, I'm just saying. She showed up in the parking lot. She got a bottle of wine, nice wine. She's going to set it down. She ready for the show, Val. You know what I'm saying? Because the funny part about it is, CJ, I've actually talked to Val. I thought about, writing a book myself because my man's in there. But,
I love it.
And look at Val.
My man's in them.
But you got to read the book. You got to read the book. But it's a play. CJ, I apologize because Val should have dropped some old Dub C so you could have came out crip walking. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not flamed up right now. I got to hold on. Trying to get me shot.
Going back to school tomorrow, like, I saw you, Miss Charles. I saw you.
I mean, I can crip walk, so please, but I'm kind of, I'm authoring right now. You guys are funny.
Welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show. Dr. Baker Bond, we come out at halftime. We had to go into halftime and get on a few people in that locker room. You know how that go. Hey, I got so many people, before I get into this next section with you, so many people are asking me from Danny to Tina to Mark to Val, all checking in and saying, we talked about the show earlier. Who was your favorite character and why?
Oh, wait a minute. Golly, who was I think Willie was my favorite character.
Right. I was going to say he was one of my favorite too, because he reminded me so much of Old Man and Martin.
I thought Willie was my favorite character. She was hilarious. I think that I like the fact that she lived like this bougie life, but that's come as she has to be open and learn other experiences. And I really liked I just liked her trajectory, the self-discovery of being open to others, her and Dwayne's like romance, like, my God. The nerd and the bougie girl, like it just
right.
The good guy won, right? It was like the good guy won. It was amazing. You saw that she wasn't as callous as she came off, like initially came off super like super fake. Everything's designer and I do this.
I know, right? Oh, today's world, she'd have fit right in today's world, though.
Man, but eventually you learn that she had a heart and she really had desires, and all of that was discovered as she encountered and developed relationships with other people and became open to seeing things other people's ways and not just her way. So I really enjoyed watching her develop. Now, I mean, that's not who I identify as. I'm trying to figure out who I identify. I feel like I was probably a mix between Cree, like real goofy.
Yeah, Cree, yeah.
Because she was aloof, like world peace. Can we all just get along? Wearing the natural hair. So I feel like I was a mix between her and Kim because I was pretty smart and driven.
Right.
Kim came that like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to let people know who I am, where I'm from. Like, and so I feel like I was a mix between those two characters, the goofiness and the world peace from Cree, but the determination of a Kim.
But that's cool. And these kids nowadays don't get a chance to say that. I mean, even looking at what you just said, leading into where you at with Dillard, getting you where you had to go. I thought Different World was that for those of you who have never, ever, ever had the opportunity to step on Dillard University's campus, absolutely beautiful. And the backs on the bank of the Gulf, the campus. I remember when I first pulled up, painted all white with blue trim. I thought that was amazing. Like, they don't like to get dirty around here, obviously.
Hey, they serious about the white buildings. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God, I'm serious about the white buildings for sure. But it was so funny. And I got to shout out to my main man who you turned the program over to, and none other than Coach Norbert Rome and my girl Loretta. I thought they did a great job. Coach Rome and I, we still in touch today. He called me year after year recruiting because I still got my hands in a lot of pies with a lot of athletes. A lot of the kids I had coming out of JUCO, sent several kids to Dillard after that. I think I sent 2 or 3 to Dillard. Just the love of just what I saw you do with the program and Jeff for the relationship that I had with him and we built, and it was absolutely great. And then you now find yourself in a situation where you now having to make a tough decision to continue to build that program and to build Dillard where it needs to be at, or to be in a situation to now move on to be the brand new first ever Black African American female to run. Now, here's the cool part about people. You must listen to this. Not only be the first Black African American woman to have the commissionership in the GCAC, but she's also the first African American woman to also be a head of a conference in the NAIA. So, boom, drop that mic. Tell me about that.
Wow. Again, these things happen and you're just trying to figure out, like, how did this happen? And why did it take so long, right? But I feel like that there is a preparation process that is required for you to, to be self-actualized or to get to the place where you're supposed to be, whatever that is. And I will say that all of the things that were happening in my career, from, ascending to athletic director, then becoming president of the conference in 2010, then being asked to serve in the interim commissioner role in 2019. It's like all of the work that I was doing from a conference standpoint was pointing me toward eventually getting the role where I would eventually, be a full-time commissioner. And so I think an important piece of leadership, and as we're talking about, faith walking or trying to achieve your goals in leadership, is really, it's really a journey that you are taking, and you are discovering and you are becoming, what you desire. But it's the process, and you would understand that from a coach's standpoint. You start off the beginning of the year and you're doing these workouts and you're getting better. And what you want is by the end of the season, when it's time to go to postseason, you want your team performing. You want them to have become the best version of themselves, so that now you have the opportunity to give yourself the best chance at winning a championship. Well, I feel like the journey has been the same way. The only difference is these things I did not necessarily desire. They have come to me as I've been walking along, and it's like, yeah, we need you to lead us here. But what I did discover in all of this, and which I think is really important, what I hope to illuminate in my book, is this process of discovering and understanding purpose and being positioned appropriately to learn and grow, so that when that opportunity comes, you can walk right into it, knowing that you're fully prepared and capable to do the work.
Yes. And if you guys have any question for Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes, please put them in the line. We'll make sure we get them out for you tonight and all that. And one of the questions that came in says, when you're looking at what you've done and you walking by faith, what kind of legacy would you like to leave?
Yeah, I want people to feel empowered. One of the things I've talked about is making your faith real. Like, I believe that in the way that we're taught to believe and how religion is taught, like, sometimes we believe it's this, we're looking for a miracle. We're looking for this amazing thing to happen. But the journey of faith is not necessarily these big miracles. It's small steps that you're taking along a journey, and you're growing, and then the big thing happens. But it's you taking small steps toward that. So it's one thing, you can't tell me that you believe something or you have faith that something can happen if your faith doesn't equal action. And there are scriptures that talk about that. And if a person is not into scripture, I would say there are laws scientific laws. You know, what you get it put in is what you get out. You do
exactly.
nothing, you get nothing. Like, even if you're not looking at it from a Christianity or spiritual standpoint, the laws of reaping and sowing are the laws of reaping and sow.
Exactly.
So if you say you believe that you want to reach this thing, and at no point you don't take a step or any action towards that, then do you really believe? Because belief and action are tied together. And so personally, for me, from a legacy standpoint, what I would want to see in this world is people who are not afraid to turn that belief into action, to take a step. I think Martin Luther King said it. It was like, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't, and he just basically, no matter what it is, you gotta
get there.
You gotta take the first step. And once you take that first step, the next step you need to take will be revealed to you as you continue to grow and be willing to make sense of the experiences that you're having. I believe that no encounter, no experience, things don't happen just for a reason. Like, I mean, just for no reason. Everything means something. But the question is, are you open to hearing and seeing what's around you to help guide you? And this is where I would say my unique walk, and people say that I'm a trailblazer. There becomes a point where you just don't know. There's nothing you know. You honestly don't know anything but the next step to take.
Okay.
That's all you know. And then you get to some point, and then there's this beautiful, this beauty that is revealed to you. Me becoming a head coach at 25.
Right.
Me becoming AD at 31. First Black commissioner. Like, these weren't the goals. I was trying to be the best I could be, and I was taking steps toward them. And then I get there and I arrive, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, you're like, I'm supposed to be on TV.
Then when the Final Four came here 2 years ago, I got to be on national TV with Master P, Candace Parker, Tyrann Mathieu. We were discussing Title IX. I was like, what?
Exactly.
This year, I was featured in Essence.
Yes.
During Black and for the January, February issue. Now, let me tell you the story about that. Now, I desire to be in Essence. Any Black woman that's somebody, if you could say that there was one thing that said you had made it, getting in Essence magazine was one of the things that you would say. If I wanted to say I made it, you know I was in Essence.
Right.
I will say that is a dream that I had. Now, what I was not prepared for was that dream was going to be manifested through a former student athlete.
Oh, wow.
Who was under my tutelage for 4 years during their time at Dillon University, a former all-conference volleyball player, just superstar. She pledged Delta Sigma Theta during her time at Dillon University. Just a fantastic young woman. Her best friend was my student assistant. So I would say that my time with her was less than the time that I spent with her best friend. Now, she gets this opportunity at Essence to be the associate editor, and her very first pitch is a pitch about Black women in sport, and myself and another coach that she had a relationship with an inspiration for that.
Wow.
It was one thing to be in Essence, but for it to come through someone that I impacted directly.
Correct.
I ain't calling no favor. I'm not, hook me up. Like, I ain't talked to her in 3-4 years outside of social media. Just when I see her do something amazing. Great job. So proud of you. So for that to come through work that had been put in, this is what the reaping and sowing. This is what I'm talking about. And the work that I've been doing is just about elevating and doing and helping young people transition. That's the work you do in college. You're helping people transition. So I've had the opportunity for over 28 years to be on a college campus, helping young people transition from young youth to young adult. And then these amazing things just come back. So when I think about legacy, it's helping people to put their belief or their faith into action.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. We are dropping super. It's so much nugget. I think I'm gonna call the fire department because in front of my house on fire right now. But we're gonna take our last break of the day. Gotta pay these bills around here. Val, tell the bill man stop sending me these letters. Pay this last bill. We'll be right back on the Pull Up Podcast Show with Coach Tony.
Tony, what would you like to ask Terrence?
Listening to that trailer, man, it was so cool. When you got a chance to get involved, what were your past experiences?
I haven't necessarily done narration and voiceover, but I am a songwriter and performer. I've done that for a while. And with this project, one, I'm not seasoned enough to know what high 8 tapes are. So I'm just pulling off my experiences with elder people in my life and their stories and try to connect that bridge. So I just tried to do that the best that I could. And I'm happy with how it came about. I'm excited for people to start seeing it and seeing how over these many years it's come full circle, as John said.
Terrence hits on a great point. The spirit of the film is based on the spirit of the music and the times of the 90s. That was important that came across because that was a different frequency of music, back then. Well, it was an exciting, challenging time where you felt the birth of a new musical movement was happening.
Ultimately, we actually shot in 13 different locations and had a cast of over 60 people. And then we had this tape, this project that was still in search of an ending. And for 30 years, I've lied and carried this on my resume as a film that I completed. But nobody ever asked me for it. But I'm just grateful for the fact that, I'm grateful for the fact that Wendell found these and just wrote such a brilliant narration that really pulled everything together and brought it to some peace after all these years of this unfinished project.
Man, welcome back as we come into the fourth quarter of the Pull Up Podcast Show. Definitely, we've been entertained all night. This is one of the best shows I think I've had all year. I'm going to tell you that, Dr. Kiki Baker-Barnes is amazing. It's been great with the Nuggets. I got several questions out there, but I want you guys just to listen to this real quick. And she talking about her Nuggets. 2022, Sports Illustrated Elevate Top 100 Influence Sports Figure. 2021, named to the Neil Jackson Executives of the Year by Women in College Sport. 2019, named to the National Association of College Directors by Under Armour. 3-time GCAC Athletic Director of the Year, star basketball player. I mean, come on. Now we got a book coming and all that. That's amazing. So Bella, who's on fire, says, Dr. Kiki Baker-Barnes, I would like to know from you, what is your advice to young women of color who would like to pursue the game or sports? What would be your advice, how to get in, how to at least be successful?
Yeah. Start with the end in mind. One of the things that I try to share with young women about the industry in general is our industry is very classist. And when I say classist, meaning that, FBS, there's NCAA, FBS, then there's FCS, then there's Division I, then there's Division II, there's Division III, NAIA, JUCO. One of the challenges that I ran into when there were some times when I looked at trying to get some NCAA Division I athletic director jobs. And as I was going through that process, the people in the industry didn't necessarily see that the work that I had done at a small private college translated to NCAA Division I. Now, wow. I would tell you, I feel sorry for those people, but yes, it is definitely a reality in this industry that people don't always see the transferable skills from one division to another. So if your desire is to work at a big Power 5 school, then you need to start your journey there. You know, whether entry level, whether it's a assistant director, or you're on a team in whatever, like whether it's in student development, whether it's in external relations like fundraising, those kinds of things, whether it's in athletic training or sports medicine, whichever particular arm in sports that you decide to go, you need to start in the space where you want to finish. If you want to work in HBCUs, you need to work at HBCU spaces.
Right, so you understand.
That is really, really critical from an advancement standpoint, because I was not prepared for people to tell me that I needed to leave after being a sitting athletic director for 15 years, telling me that because I was at a small private HBCU that I needed to go now to a bigger school and be an assistant, so then somebody would hire me as an athletic director at a bigger school. And I will say, you know, on one end, I said to people, I was like, well, I could see if I had only had 5 years of experience. I successfully led for 15 years. You can't tell me I can't go from chair to chair.
Right.
I was like, now it's harder for people to go from having money to no money, but I've never seen someone go from not having money to going to having resources and having a harder time.
Correct. So, I've never seen that.
I will tell you that I made a decision that, well, I'm done being athletic director anymore, because I've been there, done that, and I've done it successfully. So I don't have to be athletic director at another school to prove a point. I've been there, done that, and now it's time to elevate to the next thing. And so the commissioner opportunity is what has provided me now the next elevation in my leadership journey, and to help well. So I feel like that is extremely critical for young women when you're thinking about where you want to end up in your career.
Yeah, and you've laid out, now you've been the commissioner, doing a great job, and I see nothing but big, huge things. The other question is, looking at your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan for the GCAC or your personal growth, because I know you got the book coming out, and you're doing everything with the website, love it, and all that. What's that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan look like?
Ooh, man, we got a lot going on. We have our strategic plan includes us getting to 16 members by 2025.
Okay.
But
I saw you guys added, I think, Stillman. Let me make sure I got Stillman. God, come on, Tony. Wilberforce, yeah.
And Voorhees.
I knew Voorhees was already there, because me and Coach, I saw him play at Fisk last year. Every time he come to town, he frat brother, so I always go support him and check him out.
Yeah. Well, you know, we just brought them back. So we're at 13 members, and we got 3 more to go. I have a little list. You know how we used to go recruiting, and you got your list. So I got my list. I've been recruiting them hard, Coach. I've been utilizing all my recruitment skills. You know, I did the campus visit. You know, I'm trying to figure out, you know, all the ways to get them. But, you know, we're trying to get, you know, hopefully by next year, we'll get to our 16 number. And then I would say the 5 year plan is financial sustainability for the conference. Yeah. So we're trying to get to $1 million in revenue for the conference. That would allow us, it would allow us to do so much. But one of the major things it will allow us to do is to be able to start expanding the staffing structure. Our staffing structure right now includes me, full-time employee, but everybody else is an independent contractor. And I think for the long-term health of this organization, eventually being able to have full-time employees with benefits, and we don't need a huge staff, but we do need to get to that point. So from a 5 year standpoint, financial sustainability, is where we're trying to get to.
Well, that's good. I mean, you got me right here. You got the map for the South. You know, the podcast is going great. So, you know, I'm a marketing advertising guru for you guys. Want to make sure that you and I talk about that, and we'll make sure you get you guys on so I can talk about that back in and out. And, you know, the thing that gets me that we've been talking to my people about lately is the NIL process, looking at what the young lady and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese has brought to the game. Now, I know that the NIL process is an NCAA, so forth and so on. But do you see that umbrella at least assisting the NAI at any particular time?
Well, the NAI actually was the first to pass NIL legislation. We did in 2019.
Okay.
What I'll say is, I mean, NIL is about, it's for the Power 5 schools. Like, NIL is not
going to make nobody rich in college unless they Power 5.
Not the people who don't have the audience. Like,
correct.
So think about this, and let me explain it in this way. Prior to them passing the legislation, you would have a Reggie Bush, okay, who would be a spokesperson for the local Mercedes-Benz company, all right? They would take his picture, they'd use him in commercials, they'd utilize him on billboards. And you know who got a check? The school got a check. Right. Reggie didn't get any of that money. Or, hey, we've got a relationship with Canes, and Canes is going to be the official chicken of the HBCU conference. And so we're going to utilize our most famous player with the people who know him the most, and he's going to do a commercial. He's not going to get a check, but we're going to pay the school $100,000 to be the official person, and the school can use that money how they want. Now the school may say, hey, we're going to give you 3 warm-ups instead of 1. Hey, we're going to give you extra scholarship money. But like those numbers don't equate. If the school can make, and you got to understand, at this higher level, we're talking about millions of dollars.
Millions.
So these kids' faces and images can be used on all of this, and they don't get a dime. And the school, the institution, the conferences continue to utilize their images without no compensation. That is what this NIL. So people, they try to make NIL this big thing. It's saying that those big schools that have created literal markets on the backs of student athletes, you got to get them a cut.
You got to give them a cut. And see, when I first started talking about it, Dr. Baker-Bond, when I first started talking about it, I was telling people, and they didn't believe, the NIL was actually set up for a student athlete to make, give or take, between $350 to $1,000 a month. That's what it was really in that ball game. The LeBron James numbers, the Caitlin Clark numbers, the Angel Reed, those are your one-off. Those are those same 1% that are going to end up being a professional athlete.
Correct.
But 85 to 90% who end up in NIL and D3 is where you see 80% of our athletes.
Like even the regular D1s, like that big money is for anybody Power 5. Everybody else is regular. Like all of them in the same boat. It's just an opportunity. If they run in their little camp, now they can just get paid to say, hey, I'm going to go represent this brand. I don't know if you remember in maybe 26, somewhere between 2015 and 2018, I believe, there was this kid out of Florida who had monetized his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I remember that.
All around him be getting a D1 scholarship. Like,
I remember that.
Invested in this kid. He monetized that. And then when he got ready to, he signed with University of Central Florida. They basically was like, well, you can't continue to make money off your image and likeness and have this scholarship. And he looking at him like, well, like my whole platform I built was on me becoming a college student, and I'm making this money off YouTube ads and sponsorships that he got for this thing. And he appealed it. So he appealed it, and they struck that appeal down. That kid did not play college ball because he was like, how you gonna cut off my revenue source and tell me I can't make money because I'm a student athlete?
And then you fast forward to this year, and freaking Tennessee and West Virginia kill the NCAA on everything, the Sherman Act, about if I'm able to make money, I can make that no matter what, because the NCAA has a law, but it's not the law of the land. So they killed them with that, and the NCAA has not been able to recover. And since then, they've kind of rebelled. And now this year, starting this fall, they gave the D1 Power Fives unlimited transfer, which I think is going to be a complete nightmare because you go from babysitting kids year to year to now babysitting kids week to week. It is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to be a part of that right now. But
yeah. So I'm glad that you didn't work. I'm glad that somebody told you that you wanted to come up and be an assistant because you ain't got to deal with it now.
No, and I absolutely feel like those schools that have created multi-million-dollar industries on the backs of kids, like, you know, I'm trying to remember, I think what's his name at LSU? I can't remember the coach's name that negotiated a life insurance policy in his deal. I can't even call the coach's name. He won the championship and then they re-upped his
someone Ed Orgeron, the football coach.
One of football coach. I can't call his name right now, but what I'll say is I remember looking at the contract and I was like, wait a minute.
That was Muschamp. I think that was Muschamp when he won it with LSU back to back.
LSU, yes. Yeah. But he got I think it was like a $9 million life insurance policy was a part of his contract. So I was like, wait a minute. So when he died, like his kids, family, all of them gonna get money off the backs of these kids, but the kids who actually did the work got a degree.
Correct.
Something ain't right. It's not a fair trade. There was a song called Fair Trade. I can't remember who sang
Right. It's not a fair trade. I mean, it makes no sense at all. And I look at that and when, like I was proud this year for example of Coach at Fisk, what she's done with the gymnastics. I've had her on and the young lady turned around and took the NIL deal she's got, and that's been phenomenal with what they've been able to do and continue to grow. And so I just bless you. And I absolutely send you flowers and hugs from Nashville, Tennessee, because, for most people, they get an opportunity to meet you tonight, and I know you. So it is a great pleasure to just have you. And looking at the little things, like you always drop nuggets about helping other athletic people, build their brands and doing things of that nature. I'm definitely going to continue to stay in whatever I can do to help you push your brand. I'm a mouth of the South for you, so I'm going to help you out. But I want to thank you very much for just sharing a little bit of your time and on the show tonight. And if there's any one thing that you can leave and let everybody know how they can get in touch with the Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes brand and how it is that you can help, let them know.
Yeah, follow me on all my social media. I'm at Kiki Baker Barnes on all social media platforms. So I try to keep it simple. So you can find me everywhere. Instagram, Twitter. It's still Twitter to me.
It's Twitter to me too.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Those are all the platforms I'm on. And then, of course, follow our conference platform at HBCUAC. We are transitioning all of our platforms now over to the new brand. So by July 1, I think we should be fully over to HBCUAC. So on Instagram, X, Twitter, Facebook, all of those, HBCU Athletic Conference. So it's HBCUAC at HBCUAC. So please follow us. It's going to be an amazing year. We've got amazing institutions, amazing people. Our tagline is where winners thrive. And we're excited about the platform and the opportunity to tell so many stories of how alumni, how student athletes, how our coaches, and people affiliated with our institutions continue to win in life. So we're really excited about this transition and moving forward.
Man, and that's just awesome. And I've always, again, as I got the HBCU put into me, and I couldn't have picked a better conference and a better person to get to know, because I saw the hard work. And I remember when you was carrying 2 hats at one time. I don't know how she's doing this, but it was awesome. And now, as you say, to see that happening. So thank you guys for tuning in. And tomorrow night, make sure you check in with us on Tuesday night as we go into continue to celebrate Black Music Month and Music of the DJ on Interludes Talk on Tuesday with my sidekick, Val the Voice Johnson, as we continue to do that and carry this throughout the month of June. And also, if you are an athlete and you want to understand how to get into the NIL world, make sure you tune into this brand right behind me, which is my personal marketing brand. It is The Rise NIL at www.therisenil.com. But we match athletes and brands together to bring both together in excitement. So it's been a great show tonight. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning into the Pull Up Podcast Show. But you know my words. Peace.
Thank y'all.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the boys and Coach Tony, it's the Pull Up Podcast. So, I said bounce the boys and Coach Tony, it's the Pull Up